Thanks everyone. I really appreciate the opportunity to be a part of the conversation. I sort of represent big pharma in this conversation, and would like to say, you know, and of course Pfizer, but Pfizer is not a monolithic organization, so there are many different viewpoints, and this is really my own that I'm representing here. I came in through the Genetics Institute arm of this giant conglomerate that's formed over the years, back in 1990 through Wyeth and into Pfizer, and still growing as we go. I forgot to hit my timer, so in case Tron wants to enforce on me, which he does. So I show this slide just to illustrate, you know, the complexity of the company and how it's grown, because it does have relevance to the way we try to innovate, and the way it's grown and its size actually have an effect on our approach to innovation. So, you know, why Pfizer in a biotech conversation? Sometimes the success of Pfizer in the small molecule world, and, you know, including Lipitor, which reached $13 billion in sales, people often think about Pfizer as primarily a traditional pharma company. But through the years and the acquisitions, it's certainly become a significant biotech company as well, and it's often under-recognized and underappreciated. We have, you know, very substantial and successful and impactful products in areas like hemophilia, infectious disease, arthritis, and the like that we've been involved in over the years. And so we do have a great interest in biotech. It's a growing part of our business, and we're really looking to energize the biotech area further. It's really important to our future. And what are we trying to do about innovation? Just everybody's seen a slide like this. Of course, pharma's fundamental problem is R&D efficiency, and the pharma industries as a whole. We're spending more and more, and we're getting less and less out of it. The data sometimes chatter from year to year. Some people say it's ticking up, but this is the problem we're facing. And if you're looking at this from the standpoint of the CEO of the company, the investors, the board of directors, they're looking at that and saying it's just unsustainable. This model is broken. We've got to do something to fix it. So what are we working on to try to do that? And as I mentioned, you know, you asked the question, is biologics the answer to this? And you know, perhaps the success rates in biologics are higher than in small molecule nowadays, and maybe you see an opportunity for less patent cliff in biologics. The situation might not be quite as acute in the drop-off in biologics, but if you look at the success rate, we do have a problem here. There's, you know, success rate overall is 10% or perhaps even less, and we're spending a lot of money in the middle here before we actually recognize whether a product's going to succeed or fail. Tens to hundreds of millions of dollars on these. So this represents a big challenge for us. We are committed to try to find ways to improve that. And as you look at this situation, you can recognize that this is what's killing us in a way, is it takes us too long and too much money to recognize the success or failure of a product. So what we're really trying to do is you know, to accelerate the testing of clinical hypotheses. And so as a means of innovating in this way, and this is not unique to Pfizer, that we all recognize that we've got to learn earlier what we got to get our money and our effort and energy behind. And one of the things we've established over the last few years are these centers for therapeutic innovation, in which we're partnering with leading academic medical centers around the science itself, and with the idea of not necessarily jumping straight into drug development per se, succeed or fail as the model, but rather getting some understanding so that we can really build on that and say, well, what are we going to get behind? So this has been, you know, actually quite interesting model, and getting a lot of engagement and proposals for projects that are very scientific in nature and very innovative. And it's one approach, and actually we have a number of these going on, trying to position ourselves within the ecosystem. And you know, in addition to CTI, we have what we call Pfizer Venture Investments, which makes investments in companies for financial and strategic return. Of course, a lot of research collaborations. We still use M&A as a tool, as you saw recently with Hospira. We're very active in the licensed area. I'll speak about that in upcoming slides, both for new product opportunities as well as technology. And back here in the earlier spaces, seeding and trying to fund and create intersections within the community, startups and VCs and partnerships to try to find things that we may be interested in and build upon later. So we're trying all of these things and really trying to position ourselves within the ecosystem. Different and creative funding models and partnering models are becoming more and more important. People within Pfizer and across the industry are recognizing that the model in which it all has to be done internally and protected is just not going to serve in the future. So we've got to be highly networked and try to recognize that the best opportunities, it doesn't matter where they come from, but we got to try to find ways to get them to patients. So the next couple of slides are really a laundry list, and I don't want to go through the detail of this, but we have been very active in these areas. And on this slide, we speak about product opportunities and next technologies and foundations on the further one. And I'll just make a couple of points here, not to go through this in specific detail, but we have been very active, and we're investing a lot of money. This Hospira deal, if it closes, would be almost $17 billion, I believe. If it's approved by regulators. Last year, we engaged in an immuno-oncology partnership with Merck Serono with $850 million upfront for that to get into the PD-L1 area. So very significant investments, but also very creative ones in a lot of different areas of science and technology, novel modalities, novel technologies to be used for drug delivery, and we're excited in all of these. But a critical point to make here is it's not just about money. We have to invest a great deal of our expertise and effort and focus on these products in order to find ways for them to get from idea to market. And so we need, very strong clinical and technical development programs across the board to apply to all of these, and also to ensure that these are going to be manufactured, these products, to the highest standards, which are really now recognized by all of us to be the bedrock of the industry. And as we take on novelty, that becomes more challenging. And here in the technology space, and there are products planned for these technologies. We're getting into areas like gene therapy and cell therapy. We announced a deal with Spark Therapeutics, a startup out of Children's Hospital Philadelphia, for hemophilia B gene therapy. We're getting into CAR T therapy, which is a very hot field you're probably aware of. These are really technically challenging areas that we haven't figured out how we're going to deal with them yet, and they are going to require a lot of investment on our part to sort these things out. And interestingly, as you think about the conundrum, if you will, of innovation in a large company, trying to take these on increases our risk exposure. And people are looking at that, and the pencil sharpeners are going, wow, I'm not sure, if we're going to get the money back on these things, because there's a lot of hard work to do here, and I'm not exactly sure what the scale of the products is going to be, and you're definitely going to have to spend a lot of money and effort to try to figure out how to make them work. Definitely a challenge. However, we're still committed to making these happen. This is novel funding opportunities. Some of these rare diseases, it's helpful to try to create partnerships with foundations. We do have a variety of focus areas that we try to concentrate on. And I meant to point out, and we're going to be loading something into the Exchange website that has information on how to link to Pfizer. I have a couple of colleagues here from the Pfizer External Research and Development Innovation area, and they actually have a means of connecting people of interest via this website to partnering opportunities. This is another way of expressing the sort of risk profile. Lots of products at the early stage of the pipeline, but a great deal of exposure to risk. It's really killing us, but somehow we recognize that we still have to innovate against this. And if you think about the problem of incumbent industries, on the one hand, you have to innovate. On the other hand, we've got $220 billion of equity in the company. And so the concept of disruptive innovation is very attractive from the standpoint of what can you do to succeed, but you can't actually disrupt what you have. The board of directors, the shareholders want to keep the good things going. And so we somehow have to find a way to not be innovative while maintaining what's going on. And as you've seen over history of large industries, when you try to protect what you have, it's very difficult, and often they get completely disrupted from the outside. So that's a real challenge for us. In spite of that, and with the pencil sharpeners, as I mentioned, our senior management recognizes the biggest risk we face is actually standing pat. So they are encouraging us to be bold, to innovate, to take chances, and that's coming from the top. We're hearing it from the CEO, and they really recognize that you can't just stand and watch this go. So we're taking it on. I wanted to take a couple minutes to just reflect on the innovation ecosystem from my point of view, at least, and how we experience it, and this maybe the direction of it. Certainly, if you look at the history of pharma, we've played a big role in drug discovery. We've had huge synthesis and screening machines that we've applied, and it's led to a lot of very successful drugs over the years. My own view is that model is in its heyday is moving to the past, and in the future we're going to be seeing a draw from a much broader ecosystem in order to create discovery opportunities, and pharma's role is going to be more on the translating products to patients side, and as Jeff was mentioning, a lot of the things on that slide are what we will do in delivering the product, do the clinical trials, get the manufacturing up and get it to patients. My view of how the system is working, and I want to talk about in the discussion, how the risk is distributed across this ecosystem and what the flaws are. I think that the academic side of this is working phenomenally well. You can argue whether we should have more funding, of course, and it's frustrating. But if you look at the function of the ecosystem as a whole, I do not think that the academic side is the bottleneck in the system as a whole. I think that the generation of new ideas and technologies is tremendous. And we're actually seeing that pushing out into the startup companies, in a fine way. What I'm struggling with is over on this side, and with the risk profile that I mentioned, we have a lot of people with these early stage startups, and they'll come to us and say, please bring your money, bring your expertise, and help us to draw it all the way from here, all the way over to where it is useful for you. And when we're looking at how much we're spending, and not knowing exactly which ones we're going to pick, that's a hard proposition for us. And from a financial standpoint, we'd love to be able to find ways, and as I mentioned, we're working on that, trying to find ways to fund and to bring to bear expertise to help the middle succeed. Because this is really important for us, because we have to find things that can be relevant and really help us to move forward. And recognizing those and making sure this takes some maturation really to get to there is something that we're very interested in helping to advance. So with that, I'm going to thank you very much for your attention and really look forward to the rest of the discussion.